watching Tools for Talent on TFT TV. I'm your host, Cheryl Martinez, and today my featured guest is J.W. Cortez. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Nice to see you.
I'm honored to have you. J.W. is an award-winning actor, guys, and a former Marine.
Once
Thank
a Marine,
you for your
always a Marine.
service,
You're very
by the
welcome.
way.
Very welcome.
Oh my God, when did you serve?
Like most of my counterparts, I went right after high school in 1993, and I thought it would just be like this temporary thing, do my first 4 years and kind of get out and then re-examine where I was in life. But I wound up serving nearly 13 years.
13 years?
13 years, yeah. Wow. And so, fast forward from 93 to 2003, it was when I found myself deploying to the invasion of Iraq. And I say that was like my epiphany moment. 10 years of training for war. The test had finally arrived in the form of Iraq. So to deploy and to lead Marines and then to come back home, I don't know if I would be where I am today had I not had that sort of experience.
Wow, wow.
So, yeah.
How would you say that experience changed you?
Number one, it kind of slaps you in the face and says, hey, number one, life is really short. Mm-hmm. It could end at any given moment. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have total loss of control in that decision. And if you have dreams, if there are things you want to accomplish and attempt in life, then there is no better time than the present moment. And so it taught me to stop putting things off for next week, next month, next year, and to really redirect my energy and say, okay, all I really have then is the now, is this moment right here between us.
Very well said.
And so that's probably the biggest takeaway.
And that kind of advice is so powerful. It can be applied to any aspect of your life,
anything,
and any person, in any field of any career.
Absolutely, and I find that there's a lot of similarities when you speak with people who have beat cancer, or who were in really horrific car accidents or train accidents. You come out of there with this really, intimate understanding that life is so fragile, So.
Wow. So, I'm just so a little taken back.
Heavy,
yes, but again, just really empowering, and thank you again for just inspiring us.
It's important. I think words are powerful, and when they don't feel good, we know. Mm-hmm. But when they feel good and they keep us going, I think that's when they're really powerful. And so, to me, I've said many times in many of my other interviews that I put down the machine guns and the bullets are now words on my ammunition, as an actor especially. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. Well, let's lighten the mood a little bit. Let's talk about how we met.
Sure.
So JW and I actually met on the set of Giovanni Polanco's music video. What was it called again?
Cómo funciona el amor? How love functions.
Yes, and that was a beautiful music video. It was very well done.
It was very well done, and got to work with some really amazing talent.
That was my first time playing a mom, actually. Like I kind of felt a little insulted when I booked the role because it was the first time I ever booked something that wasn't like the sexy girl in the video.
Sure. Well, there's sexy moms too.
Well, yeah,
so.
No, you know what I mean, though. But then I got to work with this talented guy, and I have to say that was an interesting moment for me because that was the first time I ever had to kiss another man on set, on camera, a man that wasn't my boyfriend. Right. So, and my first time ever getting proposed to was by you.
It was a big music
my first proposal in my life. So thank you for asking me to marry you and for getting down on my knees.
Thank you. You said yes.
My ring to give to me. Yeah. No, but but like I said, but for those reasons, that music video will always have a very wonderful, huge memory in my heart.
Same with me. I think it was a lot of firsts for me too. Sometimes you go into these projects, you don't know what to expect, and you hope for the best, and sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but sometimes it does. And what you do is you end up creating a really beautiful memory and some lifelong friends.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful
we had
for that
fun
experience.
On set. We had good chemistry. Everything went smoothly. It was a smooth shoot, fun shoot.
No divos or divas.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Thank God.
Yeah, so check out that music video, guys. Yes. Go check us out. Listen, Giovanni Polanco's Cómo funciona el amor.
El amor.
Okay, so now, since then, I don't even know how many years ago that was. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. But
since then, your career has catapulted. In fact, I'm actually a huge Gotham Gotham fan, I gotta say.
Thank
I've
you.
seen every season except for the last, because
Okay.
these past, couple months have been really, really crazy for me.
Sure.
But I am planning on seeing it.
Thank
It's
you.
been recorded in my DVR for months
Thank
now.
you.
But yeah, so I'm very familiar with Detective Alvarez.
Detective Alvarez.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean,
Detective Alvarez.
it's interesting, right? I went into, like every other New York actor, I'm always auditioning for things, and sometimes you go into an audition and you kind of know when it doesn't go well, and then other times you go in and you're like, man, I really felt good for me. Like I went in there and I executed exactly what I wanted to do with this.
Best
and so
feeling, right?
it's the best feeling, because even if you don't book it, that's okay.
Yeah, you know you gave it your all.
Yeah, and the casting director will say, you know what? That was really good, probably the best I've seen all day, and I'll bring him back for something else. And I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me in my career. So that's kind of what happened with Alvarez. I went in, I did my thing, and I disappeared. I jumped on an airplane, took my family down to Puerto Rico. We were on an island called Culebra. Culebra is right off the coast, eastern coast of Puerto
Yes,
Rico.
I have family in PR too.
It's just one of the most
Yes,
exotic,
100%.
beautiful places on earth, and I'm biased. But that's where we received word that we had, booked the show, and I had no idea who Alvarez was. Turns out he's a comic book character. I'm the first human to play Alvarez, and it's just been great.
So
really
you
great.
went auditioning for that character, or just auditioning for the show in general?
No, I specifically went in. I remember I went in for Detective Alvarez, and it was a character that would be possibly recurring, but they didn't want to, solidify that for me at the moment. And I went in for one episode, and I've shot 25 so far.
Oh my God! One
Yeah.
episode turned into 25 episodes.
Yeah.
Congratulations!
Thank
You say what?
you.
Congratulations! That
Thank
is
you.
insane.
It
To have
is.
like a recurring speaking role of such a strong character like
Mm-hmm.
that from DC Comics. I mean, everyone loves DC Comics,
Love DC.
And
Shout out to all the DC fans.
to bring that comic book character to life for the first time, right?
Yeah.
That's really rewarding to be able to be the first for that. You know?
To originate the role, right?
Yeah.
And it's a unique opportunity because so many of the fans are the ones who are always teaching me, hey, Alvarez does this, he does that in the comic books. And so,
really?
trying to inform the character on television, the fans really help me out a lot. And it's interesting how widespread the reach is of our show. You know?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, because the whole Batman theme itself, is just so huge that to build Gotham based on that, what happens before, was such a great idea.
Yeah.
It was such a great concept.
It's amazing that Batman's been around for 75 plus years now.
Whew.
And we're just now learning and spending time with who Bruce Wayne was. But really, at the core of Gotham, though, is interesting. It really isn't a Batman story. We're living and spending a lot of time and learning about Gotham through the eyes of Detective Gordon, who we've only ever met as Commissioner Gordon, a much older man. And so Ben McKenzie, I think, does a fantastic job as Detective Jim Gordon.
Yeah.
But it's essentially his show, and so not only are we meeting Gotham, but we're also meeting, as you said, a young Bruce Wayne, but we're also meeting for the first time ever a very young Jerome, who may or may not be the Joker, a young Catwoman.
I love the young Catwoman.
She's Selena Kyle. She's fantastic.
Adorable.
An amazing dancer. If you ever have an opportunity,
No, I didn't
Cameron
realize that.
is an amazing hip hop dancer. Just
Ooh.
amazing. Which really lends to her crafting of Selena Kyle, with her sleek moves and stuff.
Sure.
And we're also meeting a very young Penguin.
Oh
And
yeah,
Riddler.
yeah. They have some cool characters,
I
and they
think
play them very well.
The casting is really, really good.
Yeah. And Jada Pinkett Smith.
Miss Jada Pinkett Smith was on our show for a long time. Yeah, Fish Mooney, which was a character that had never been done before in comic books anywhere. It was specifically created because when she came in, I heard to the audition, she actually brought in a man on leash, and she came in as what she interpreted to be Fish Mooney, this really badass, super in control goddess of a mobster.
Hold on, so you're saying she took it upon herself to
Yes.
just bring that in, just to make her
Yes.
audition that much more powerful.
That much more powerful.
Wow, that's
And
so cool.
The executive producers, they were just blown away.
Blown away, of course.
What do you say to that?
Yeah.
You got the part.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's actually a great key, right? A tip right now, right? As a point of advice, go the extra mile. What are you going to do at your auditions that's going to be so memorable that you're going to force the casting directors to remember you.
To remember you.
Even if it's not for that role. Like you said, they might remember you and want to use you for some other project. So who would you say was your favorite, actor working with on the set of Gotham? I mean, besides, obviously, Detective Alvarez. But who else would you say is the best character on the show?
I really love the core five, right? I think they're fantastic. As human beings, you get to spend some time. I know I do with mostly James Gordon, Ben McKenzie, or Donald Logue, who plays Detective Bullock, and they're just really fantastic actors, but even better human beings. So. Because I get to spend more time with them than the other actors, I feel like I've learned to love these men as great human beings and incredible patriots of our country, and just these wonderful humanitarians who really care deeply about their craft, but also about mankind. Yeah. And so that's infectious. I learn a lot. And it's amazing how little we do talk about acting when we're acting together.
Really?
And it's just, we catch up on family and what's going on in your life and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I can imagine after 25 episodes, you guys must be like a family by now.
It is. And it's a special opportunity because it doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes you're on shows and people are just there to work and kind of like, do their own thing, and that's okay. But when it kind of, meshes the way it has on Gotham, you just realize it's not the norm. It's really nice.
That's so nice. I love that. I really, really love that. So tell me about some of the other shows that you've been on in addition to Gotham.
I've guest starred on shows like Power, The Blacklist, Mysteries of Laura, and Blue Bloods, and almost every New York show. Yeah.
You made sure to get all those auditions.
It's. I mean, if you spend enough time in New York, hopefully you'll get to work on the shows that you grew up watching, or just you're hearing so much about, and that's kind of what's happened. It's just I've been here, grinding like every other actor, and every once in a while the acting gods smile down and they go, congratulations, you booked the role.
You know what? I can tell that you have so much good karma coming towards you from everything that you've done and you've been through, and just kind of like the energy that you put out there.
That's very nice.
That, I always felt that way about you, and I feel it even more right now. And I think that's why you've deserved every opportunity that has come your way, and you've worked so hard to get it. And how you've even made it happen for yourself too. I think I would love for you to provide some advice for someone who's for aspiring actors that, let's say, I have a wife, I have kids, I have a regular job too. How can I pursue my dream and all that at the same time? I can't do it. It's too hard, blah, 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 blah. Right. Well, you've made it happen, and you're stomping it.
Right.
So what advice would you give from that perspective?
I always start off by saying that if you don't love it, then this probably isn't for you. There's probably something else out there that you do love, and I would say I'd encourage you to focus in that direction. But if this is what you love, and one of the ways that I can tell if you do love it is, I'll ask you very quickly, is it the first thing you think about when you open your eyes in the morning? Is it the last thing that you think about before you go to sleep?
Love that.
Are you sleeping? Are you dreaming about being on set? I mean, those are really strong indicators that, hey, you probably love the idea of pursuing this craft, right? Second part of that is, are you willing to forego sleep and food to really spend time with your craft, really spend time being somewhat obsessed with the idea that this is a learnable, teachable thing called acting, right? And then if you're still on board with us, if you haven't jumped off by that point, then I'd say if you're in New York, man, you're in the mecca of great theater, of great acting teachers. People travel from far and wide to learn from these masters, these gurus of acting. Take advantage of that, because there's somebody in Wisconsin who hasn't turned on the light in their apartment, who's trying to figure out, how am I going to leave here, get to New York so I can study with the best, and just try to do really great work, even if, like in my case, you go in for one line, one word. I've had those auditions. I've had literally one word to say, and I treat them just as I did back then, today, with the same level of respect for the craft, the same understanding that anybody would give a left leg for that part. And I take nothing for granted, because if I didn't die in Iraq, there's a purpose and reason for my life. And that's what it's about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Very good advice.
That's a lot of advice.
Oh yeah, it makes me. It makes me have all these other questions too, though. So
Good.
now, when
Good.
when you're at an audition,
Yeah.
now what advice can you give? Like, what have you done to prep for that audition?
Like more technique or more mental preparation? What?
I'd say more technique. Like, what are the steps that you would recommend that you take to prepare for your audition to have the best possible chance of booking that role?
For me, I try to spend as much time not making decisions early on when I get material, like size, for example. I studied at William Esper Studios, which is the Meisner technique with a wonderful man named Terry Knickerbocker. Who's like the smartest human being I've ever met. Anyway, but one of the things that he would always stress to us is before you start trying to act, you need to understand what's being said to you by the other actor, by the other character. Don't make any hard decisions.
As much as it is about acting.
Absolutely. And so I'll probably read a script, 30 times, if not more.
Wow.
If I have the time, sometimes you don't have, it's a cold read, you show up and they give you the size right there and then. But if I have the luxury of spending any time with my script, and if I can't figure it out on my own, I'll call up my acting coach.
Oh.
All the time. Even if I'm on set, I'll call my acting coach. And to me, it's just a worthy investment, and I'll pay them or whatever it takes, but they'll help me understand because I'm not allowed to say anything that I don't understand, even if it's a single word. Everything I need to be connected to it at some level.
Interesting.
So back to the technique, I'll read it a bunch of times. I'll see what starts to land on me, what you're saying to me starts to land on me, and then I just try to see what does JW understand about love? What does he know about loss, if that's what it's about? What do I know about lust? What do I know about seduction? These really things, wonderful things, and I start to have these impressions on me, and then from there I start going back to the basics of what am I here for, what am I trying to get to, what's stopping me, what happened to me right before I came into this room, and if I don't know, I make it up. You have the goods already inside of you. You just have to believe, and so I take my little bit of fame and I go to schools all the time to share that messaging.
Wow,
really
that's
powerful.
The exact reason why I'm doing this show. Tools for Talent. It's the same concept, right? I'm trying to create a platform where people who have had success in the industry can share it with people just starting out who don't know where to go, who don't know like what door to open first, where to step, what mistakes to make, what mistakes not to make, and I think the fact that we didn't have that growing up and how the fact that we want to offer that to people so they don't maybe have to struggle or grind as much as we did, because sometimes I feel like if I had a platform like this, or like you said, or if you had someone like you speaking and helping you when you were young, then who knows how much further up we'd even be at this point,
Sure.
So,
Sure.
I mean, we need that.
And we do. And it's interesting because obviously there's a saying, right? You're not allowed to, you can look back, but you can't stare. And ultimately what matters is the present moment, is the choices you're making today. And I think that's what we're doing. What you're doing is essentially is saying, look, here's a platform to hopefully enrich you, empower you right now at this very moment, to make really strong choices.
Yeah. I mean, I see people getting scammed in the industry like left and right, and a lot of people, they get discouraged, or they don't know how to deal with the rejection, or how to deal with whatever, the stresses of what it went through that didn't work out, that they lose hope, and hope is such an important thing, yet hope can also, be what took you down the wrong path in the first place, because you were so hopeful that it was something real that you didn't realize it was a scam. We need people and avenues and platforms where we can go and find those answers and be empowered and be inspired to go and follow our dreams and do it the right way, the way with the best results.
That's correct.
So I love that you're doing this, and that you share this this feeling that I have to want to help people, in the industry.
Yeah, I think, I know that of all the things that I've done, films, television. I even did a reality television show for NBC, right, called Stars Are in Stripes.
Really?
And I bring it up because I never thought in a million years.
Yeah, I can't picture you as a reality TV guy.
Yeah, but it was a cool one. It was with a bunch of Navy SEALs and
Oh, okay, so that
and
makes it
stuff.
more, you know.
Yeah, it was more legit. You know, we raised money for charities, and Chris Kyle, who your audience may know from the film, his story was told through by Bradley Cooper in a film called American Sniper. He was on our show, The Real Criminal, Chris Kyle.
Wow.
But you know, all of those moments are great, and they definitely help give me confidence in, you know, for other projects. But nothing quite feels as fulfilling and enriching of the soul as meeting a young person who looks you right in the eyes and says, because of you, I didn't, you know, hurt myself. Because of you, I didn't quit. Because of you, I am now doing this. Because of what, you know what, I'll give you a great example. Just the other day, I got stopped on this New York City subway by a young man who wanted to pursue acting, who was about to give up. And his wife reminded him, hey, you're not allowed to quit because you said that you saw a guy named J.W. Cortez on Humans of New York. And he said on Humans of New York that he wasn't allowed to quit, so you're not allowed to quit. And out of nowhere, like New York City, beautiful New York City moment, he found me on the subway. And I rarely ever ride the subway.
Wow.
And it was the same day he was thinking about quitting acting.
Oh my gosh.
You never know who's watching, who's listening.
Right, and who you're inspiring, whose life you're changing.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's so cool. That's so cool. You know, I also noticed that you are, you know, helping so many different foundations, that you do a lot of philanthropy as well. And again, I don't know how you find time for all of this, but it's just, wow, like if you weren't already this amazing human being, now you just took it a step further. Why don't you tell us some of the foundations that you're working with?
I'm on the board of the Detective Rafael Ramos Foundation. Detective Ramos and his partner, Wenjian Liu, were killed as they sat in their police car a couple of years ago, December 20th, 2014, I believe. And so when I heard of the killing, it affected me in a really deep, profound way. And so I reached out to the organization, and I started working with them, and then they very graciously asked me to join them as a board member. So I'm on the board of the Ramos Foundation. We do great things in Brooklyn and in all the 5 boroughs and beyond. And I'm honored to serve on their board. But I'm also I'm working with the Semper Fi Fund. Gary Sinise is a friend. Gary Sinise played Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump.
Yes.
And he's
Everyone remembers the Lieutenant
Dan.
Dan.
Lieutenant Dan. So sometimes I'll jump on stage and sing with the Lieutenant Dan band.
Oh.
And it's all for the troops. And
I want to come see that.
it is something to see.
Why don't you tell the audience where they can go to be a part of, either to donate or to come to the show or something like that?
You know, if they follow me on social media at JW Cortez or at the Detective Ramos Foundation or at Gary Sinise Foundation. Who else do I work with? The Bob Woodruff Foundation. These are all military.
Oh.
There's a lot of them. Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's probably too many to name here, but
That's so impressive. Like, JW, like, hats off to you. I really just, you know,
Thank you. You know, it's not as difficult as it is, you know, as it may appear to be, because I have no excuse. The guys that I'm working for have no legs sometimes. The Semper Fi Fund, I ran on their behalf the New York City Marathon in November, right? One of the hardest things I've ever done physically. But I did it with both my legs, my arms, with everything intact. And there were guys from the Semper Fi Fund who were single, double, triple amputees. You know, so when I remind myself of that, nothing is impossible.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing, honey.
You need to run the marathon
amazing.
with me next year.
Yeah, you know.
Wait, this year. November. You have plenty of time.
I love dancing, but running isn't as fun for me.
It's kind of like the same thing. I mean, you're moving.
It's not like the same thing at all. It's totally not. In fact, when I was in girl groups, before I became a solo artist, they used to force us to run in Central Park while singing at the top of our lungs to bring up the stamina. And that was so rough, like so rough that it just, you know, when I think of running, it reminds me of that and how that was.
Right.
But yeah. So is there anything that you want to leave the audience with, some final last tips or words of advice or insight or inspiration?
Yeah, just work hard. If you have an opportunity to do the right thing, there's never a wrong time to do that. Never a good time to do the wrong thing. Life is hard as it is. Don't complicate it. Try to find the moments to laugh, act silly, let it all loose. And along the way, if you're able to do what you love, thank God or whoever you believe in for that understanding, for that finding. Embrace it, cultivate it, treat it as your baby. Take care of it, nurture it. Be good to yourself, and you'll be good to others.
He just keeps on having them. He just keeps on giving them. I mean, my gosh, this guy right here.
If God forbid this is my last interview, and this is all I have at this very, very moment, then I want to be as truthful as possible. And my truth is that, life has been good to me. And so one of the things that I remind myself of is that it is all about first time. Every one of us watching in this room, it is all about first time doing this thing called life. It isn't my third, fourth, fifth time. This is it, And so,
well said.
I find that kind of calms me down when I hear of these experts out there and they give us this illusion that they've done this, 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's all about first time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Whew, all right. Well, again, I just say thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your story with our audience and for inspiring our audience to follow your dreams and to motivate them. And just your words of advice were so powerful. This is like one of my favorite interviews so far.
Thank you so much. You're so kind.
It really means a lot to me that you came here and you took time out of this crazy schedule that you have to come be here for us for Tools for Talent. So we are so thankful and so appreciative, and I'm really excited to see more of you in Gotham and who knows where else. So thank you again, guys.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
And you guys are watching Tools for Talent on TFT TV. I'm your host, Cheryl Martinez, and big thank you and shout out to my guest today, JW Cortez. See you next time, guys.